Hello guys, on this lesson we want to add the checkout page to the project. So after going to the cart page and clicking on proceed to checkout, you will see this page that you can enter the name and the address, see the order items, and select the location on the map with the find my location button and a go to payment button that saves this order inside the database. Okay, let's do it. Here, first of all, we want to fix a problem from previous session that was about loading. Here, as you can see, inside the home page, when we refresh the page, the loading works and it shows the content of the page. But if we go to the cart page and refresh the page, the loading stuck on a screen forever. The reason is, inside the cart page, we have no access to the backend. So the interceptors doesn't get called and doesn't work to stop the loading. So instead of setting the loading to true by default, we need to set it to false. So go to the code, in the front end, src, hooks, and use loading hook. We need to set the user state of the is loading to false by default. So when we use the use loading hook, is loading is false by default. And that makes sense. So if we look at the cart page, refresh the page, it works. And if we go to the home page, refresh the page, as you can see, we'll see the loading for a couple of milliseconds. Okay, now the loading problem is fixed. You can go to the main steps of this lesson. The first step is creating the checkout page component. Then we need to create another component with the name of authentication route or auth route to make it protected. So a user that is not logged in should not be able to have access to the checkout page. Then we need to add it to the routes. Let's start by creating the checkout page. Close the use loading, open the Explorer, right click on the pages folder, create a new folder with the name of checkout, then right click on it, just like always, create a checkout page.js, create a new file again with the name of checkout page.module.css. Like this. Now let's go to the checkout page and write RFC for creating a new functional component. Now for showing it, we don't want to use it directly inside the app routes. We want to use a component to make it protected and only the authenticated user should be able to see it. So go to the Explorer. Here right click on the components folder and create a new folder with the name of auth route. Then right click on it again and create a new file with the name of auth route.js. You can directly put it inside the components because we don't have a CSS file for it, but I just wanted to make it like other component. Close the Explorer. Here write RFC for create another functional component. Here we don't want this React import. Instead of this, we need navigate, use location, and use auth from the React router DOM and use auth hook that we created. Now let's see how we want to use it. We are getting the location from the use location. We need this because when we want to redirect an unauthenticated user to the login page, we want to set the return URL by this. So whenever the login is finished, it needs to come back to the current page. For example, if we clicked on the checkout page and the user is not logged in, after login, he needs to come back to the checkout page. And we need user to verify if the user is logged in or not. For the return part, we want to remove this return div and replace it with this. So if the user is available, then show the children, and this children comes from the properties. Put it like this here inside an object. So we get the props of children from here and we put it as the children of this authentication route. So it's going to show the component that you are protecting. And if the user is not logged in, it's going to use navigate and navigates the user to the login page with this return URL. Is the current return URL. For example, this will be /checkout, and replace means remove all the histories. So the user couldn't be able to press back, come back to the previous page. Okay, our authentication route is ready. Now that we have both checkout page and auth route, let's use them inside the app routes. So go to the app routes. Here, let's duplicate the last route. Let's change its text to checkout/checkout, its path to /checkout, okay? Then here, first of all, write auth route and import it. Then inside it, write checkout page. Here we go. So we are going to have our checkout page wrapped by the authentication route. Okay, now let's go to the browser and verify it. First of all, let's log out and go to the cart page. Okay, we have something. Let's click on proceed to checkout. As you can see, it moved us to the login page with the return URL of /checkout. So this is exactly what we want. Now, if we click on the login, we need to see the checkout page that we are seeing. So it works perfectly. The user is not logged in, he or she will not be able to see this page. Otherwise, they will be able. Okay, now let's see where we are. Created the checkout page, but we didn't finish it, so I don't check it. We just add it to the app route. So auth route is ready. We add it to the routes. Now I want to work on the checkout page and add the elements that it needs. Okay, let's jump to the code, close the app routes, authentication route, and work on the checkout page. Here, first of all, at the top, I want to import use cart and use auth. We need the use cart for loading the items from the cart and use authentication to assign those items to a user. Now let's use them inside the checkout page. The next thing that I need here is the use navigate for navigating the user to the payment page after submitting the data inside the checkout page. Now let's use this one too. Next, I want to define a state for the order. So I need use a state from the React. Then we can use it like this. Order, set order with the default value of ... cart. So we're going to put a shallow copy of the cart inside the order. So in this step, order has all the items of the cart. The next step is using the form for getting the data of the user. So let's import use form from React hook form and use it here. Just like the login and register page, you have register function, form state and its errors, and handle submit function from the use form. Next step is creating the submit function. So here after the use form, let's write const submit equal to async data. This data is form data, just like the other pages that we created. At the first line of this submit, we'll verify if the order.address.lng is not set. It means if the user didn't select the address on the map, because we want to fill it based on the location that the user choose on the map. Here we need to show a warning. So we need React Toastify toast to show the warning. So here let's import it. Okay, import the toast from React Toastify. Now we can use it here. Here we write toast.warning. Please select your location on the map and we return out of this submit. So we will not send anything to the server if the address.lng is not set. If you don't want the address to be mandatory, you can remove this if completely. So here after this if, anything that we write means it passes this condition, because if the address.lng was null or undefined, it's supposed to return out of this function and it couldn't come to this point. So here we can create the order. I want to create it inside the order service that we didn't create it yet. So let's create it. It's very simple. Let's jump into the Explorer, right click on the services, create a new file with the name of order service.js. First of all, here we need to import Axios from Axios. Then we need to create the create order function like this. We export a const with the name of create order, gets the order that we pass from the checkout page, send its data to this address that we are going to create on the backend side, the order that we pass to it, and it gets the data and it will return it. Okay, our order service is ready. Let's close it and come back to the checkout page. First of all, let's import it from here. Scroll down after the if inside the submit. Let's write await create order, then pass ... order. So we're going to create another shallow copy of order this time with the name of the user and its address. If you like to get more data from the user, you need to add more properties here and add more inputs inside the return part. And here, after having a successful order creation, we need to go to the payment page. So we call the navigate / payment that we are going to create on the next lesson. Now here inside the return part, let's remove everything and add an empty template. At the first line, I want to add the form, but before that, I want to add the classes from the CSS module like this. Then I want to go to the return part and add the form here. Here inside this form, I want to add another div, the class of content. And this content is what we see on the left side of the map. On the right side, we'll see the map, and at the bottom, we'll see the button. So here I want to use the title component, input component, and the button component right now. Let's import them all first. Okay. Okay. Title, input, and button. And now let's use them. Let's start with the title. Okay, we have our title component here, the title of order form, the font size of 1.6 rem. Here after the title, I want to add a div with the class of inputs. Then here I want to add two inputs for the name and address of the user. So we use our input component with the default value of the username. So the current username will be the name of the user inside the checkout page. And just like before, we spread the register function and we'll pass it to the input, and we'll pass the errors from here, from the errors dot name of the input, and exactly the same for the address. Now, if you go to the browser, you'll see the order form title like this: name, address of the user that has the correct data from the user. Here at the bottom of the inputs, I want to show the order items, but it's a separate component and I want to create after finishing this page, just like the map. So let's finish everything about this component and work on order items list component and the map component. Okay, let's get back to the code. Here after this div, we need to add order item list component. So let's ignore it. And here after this div, that is the content div, let's add another div and give it a title like this. For choosing the location on the map, this will be shown on the top of the map, and at its bottom will show the map. Let's ignore this one again and add another div here for the buttons container. So this will be the container of the buttons, and inside it we add another div with the class of buttons. It could be button, but maybe in future you want to add another button for some other businesses here. I just made them buttons. And at the end, I want to add the button itself. Type of submit for submitting the form, text of go to payment, width of 100% and height of 3 rem. Now, if we go to the browser, we'll see the data like this. That means we can go to the CSS and make them ready for adding our other component. Here we go. Go to the checkout page, module CSS. First of all, let's start with the container class. Okay, very straightforward. Margin top of 1 rem, flex, 0, 0, 6 rem from bottom and 2 rem from the left. It should be wrapped when the size is smaller, so the map goes down, and justify content of center, so it will be shown on the center. Now let's work on the inner class, that is content. Set its width 35 rem and its margin to 0 from the top, 3 rem from the right, 0 from the bottom, and 0 from the left. And for the content and inputs together, we need to give them a display of flex, flex direction of column. For the inputs specifically, we need to set its width to 100% because inputs is inside the content. It will fill this width. Now let's work on the buttons container and buttons. For the buttons, we are using a flex basis of 100%, display of flex, so the buttons will be a flex item, and justify content. With the buttons on the middle, we set its width to 35 rem, so it will be a big button with the margin of 2 rem from all sides. Now let's check out the browser. Okay, it seems to be ready. Now let's see where we are. We just added the CSS to the project and we worked on the checkout page. We didn't finish it because we need to add order items list and maps component into this to finish it. Now let's go and create the order items list and put it inside the checkout page. Here, open the Explorer, scroll up, then right click on the components and create a new folder with the name of order items list. Then right click on it and create a new file with the name of order items list.js. Then right click on it again. As always, create an order items list module.css. Come back to the order items list. RFC for functional component. Here I need a couple of imports that I want to add all of them at once. We need the link from the React router DOM because this order items list shows the items inside the cart and I want to be able to click on them and go to the food page. We need to show their prices and classes for the order items list module. Here, first of all, I want to get the order inside the props, and here instead of returning a div, I want to return table. So I create a table with the class of table. Inside it, we have a tbody and a tr that has a td with a call span of 5 and an h3 tag that writes order items. In fact, it creates an empty row with this call span of 5 because we have 5 columns. It fills all of them and just writes a text of order items. After this row that acts as the header of this table, I want to list the items of the order like this. Here we put curly braces and inside it we write order.items.map. We want to map the order items into trtd tags. Let's create the tr tags and give it the ID of food ID because it is unique. For the first td inside it, I want to use the link that goes to the food page and the img tag that shows the image of the food. For the next TD, I want to show the name of the food. Next, I want to show the price of the food using the price component that we created before. On the next column, we want to show the quantity of the cart items or order items. And on the last column, I want to show price of the order item or the cart item. That is the multiplication of the price with the quantity and will be placed here. Here after these rows, I want to show a row like this. Its first TD has a call span of 3, so it goes 3 column forward. On the 4th column, we'll show a text of total, and at the end, show the total price of the order, the bottom of the table. Now let's use this order items list and see it inside the checkout page. We need to put it after the inputs here. Let's import it from the right place. Okay, order items list from the components, order items list and order items list file. Here after the inputs, put it here and pass the order into it. Okay, now if we go to the browser, you can see we have the food images. If we click on them, it will move us to the food page. You have the name of the food and price of the food and total price of the order item. So $2, 5 quantity will be $10 and the total of $111. Now we need to work on its CSS and show it beautifully here. Go to the code, click here, order items list module. Here, let's start with the table class. We give it a width of 100% so it fits its parent, border of 1 pixel solid and this color, margin top of 1 rem, border radius 5 pixel, a little bit radius on the corners, and padding of half a rem from top and bottom and 1 rem from left and right. See the result? As you can see, I have this beautiful border around our table. Let's continue and work on the TDs and the images. For the table TD, we set a height of 3 rem, and for the images inside the TD, we set their width and height to 3 rem, so they will be a rectangle, and with the border radius of 100 rem, a big number, they will be a circle. And with the object width of cover, we'll keep the aspect ratio of the image. Now if we look at here, we'll see them more beautiful. Now let's work on this title and make it a little bit gray and change the opacity of these when we hover over them. Let's do it, okay? Let's start with H3. Okay, we gave it a little bit of margin top and margin left and we made it gray. And for the hover effect of the A tag, that is the link tag, we set its opacity to 90%. So when we hover our mouse over it, we feel that it's something clickable. Okay, we finished the order items list part. Let's see where we are. Check this one. Now we want to create the map. For adding the map to the project, I want to use Leaflet that is free and open source. And for adding it to a React project, it's better to use a package called React Leaflet. So we need to install these two packages together inside our project. Let's jump into the code and open a new terminal. Then go to the Frontend folder and you can write npm install leaflet space react-leaflet to install them both at once. Then close the panel. Let's check out the package JSON inside the frontend folder. As you can see, we have the leaflet here and the React leaflet. Now that we have them, we can go to the next step, that is adding images to the public folder. There is a problem that I experienced on Angular and React on Leaflet, and that's loading the default images of the leaflet. For fixing this problem on the React, we need to copy the images of the leaflet inside the node modules into the public folder of our React project. So let's do it. Here, scroll up and click on node modules to open it. Then write leaflet. As you can see, the leaflet is selected. Open it, go to the dist folder and images. Copy all the images, close the node modules, then right click on the public folder and paste it. So layers 2x, layers, marker icon, and marker shadow all are copied inside our public folder. So we are not going to have the image loading issue. Here we go. Let's check this one and this one. Now let's create the map. Let's go to the code, right click on the components, create a new folder and give it the name of map. Then right click and create a new file with the name of map.js and a CSS file with the name of map.module.css. Inside the map.js, write rfc for creating functional component and save it. For this map, I want to define 3 properties: read-only, location, and onChange. These 2 are what comes to the map, and this onChange is the event that sends the data from the map to the outside. Now let's see how we can use it inside the checkout page. Let's find the checkout page JS file, and here inside the div with the title of choose your location. After the title, press enter. First of all, let's add the tag map from the components map/map. Press enter to be imported. Then here let's add the location and onChange. Here, as you can see, we set the location to the order.address.lat.lng, and on change, we are going to get the lat.lng coming outside of our map component. So we need to implement where this on change should be called, and we set the order with a new object that has everything from the current order, but the address lat.lng changes to the new selected lat.lng on the map. Okay, perfect. If we go to the browser, we're going to see this map text that's coming from the map component here. So now we can work on the map component. Here, first of all, I want to import the user state from the React because I need it for the position on the map. I also need the use effect for handling the read-only mode. And we have a bunch of other things to import. First of all, we're importing classes from map.module.css for handling our CSS classes. We need to import the leaflet CSS here. So the leaflet map gonna be shown correctly. We need 4 components and 1 hook from the React leaflet. Map container is the provider container for the use map events. Tile layer shows the tiles of the map, marker for the marker, and pop-up for some extra information for the marker. And at the end, we are adding the toast for showing some messages. Now that our import part is ready, let's jump into the return part. Here, first of all, I want to give a class of container to this div. Then I'm going to remove the map text. Here inside it, I want to use the map container. I need to set a bunch of properties of the map container. Let's do it. Here, as you can see, we have a bunch of properties to set, but most of them are related to the read-only. Because on the next lesson that is about the payment, we need to limit the behavior of the map container because we need to make our map read-only. So nothing should be changed when the user clicks on the map or drag the marker or anything. So we disable everything in the read-only mode by setting, for example, dragging when it is not read-only, and the same for all the other cases. We set the default zoom to 1 so it shows the whole map of the world, and center to the latitude and longitude of 0, and with the class of map. Pretty straightforward. Now that we have the map container, we need to add the tile layer. The tile layer is responsible for showing images that together they make the whole map. As you can see, the tile layer has a URL. This is how the tile images will be loaded from the server, and I find it from the leaflet documentation. To this point, we could be able to see the map on the browser. But first, let's close the unnecessary tabs. This one, and this one. Let's move the checkout page here. So we have the map.js and map module CSS together. Okay, but if we go to the browser, we'd see nothing because we didn't give any dimension to our map. So we need to go to the CSS file and start with the container, position of relative, width of 35 rem, height of 22 rem, and text align of center. I will tell you why we need this position of relative. Normally on its children, we have some position of absolute. And for the map class, we need to set its width and height to 100% with exclamation mark important to override the default size of the leaflet. Now, if you go to the browser and refresh the page, we'll see our map placed here. Now I want to add a component inside the map component with the name of find button and marker, because in 2 ways we can select our location on the map. One with selecting a specific area, and the second is by clicking on find my location button. Let's implement both of them. Let's go to the code inside the map.js. At the bottom of the file, let's create a child component or just a function with the name of find button and marker with the same props as its parent. At its first line, I want to define a state with the name of position. Okay, position, set position, use a state that uses the location coming from its parent, that is the map component, that gets the value from the checkout page. Now I want to use this use map events hook. By using this hook, we can get all the map events like click, location find, and location error and handle them in the way we want. So let's go here and add it. Here we go. Here we just define the constant with the name of map. We use the use map events. We passed an object into it and we used 3 events of it: the click, location find, and location error. The click means when you click on the map. In this way, if it's not the read-only mode, so we set the position to the lat.lng that will be passed to the click event, and we set it to the current position. On the location found, it means after clicking on the find my location button and after finding the location, that location should be set as the current position and the map should fly to that position. And this fly to function gives a very beautiful animation so the user doesn't get surprised. And the location error will be shown when the location is disabled or any other things. So we show the error that's coming from the leaflet. Now for the return part of this component, I want to return an empty tag. And here I want to verify if it's not read-only mode, then show the find my location button. Okay, with the type of button, with the class name of find location. And this is the important part, the map that we defined here that uses the use map events as a locate function that does the job of finding the current user's location on the map. And after this button, we need to show the marker if it's available. Let's write everything and talk about it. Here, as you can see, we check if the position has value, then show the marker. By using the marker component from the React leaflet, we show the marker on the map. Inside the marker, we have event handlers that you can pass event handler for different events. The only event that we set here is drag end. It means when we drag the marker and release it. When we release it, we need to set the position to the e.target.getLatLng that is coming from the drag end event. And we need to set the position to the position state of this component. And we need to enable the draggable when the read-only is not true. So if the map is read-only, we couldn't be able to drag and change the marker on the map. And inside the marker, we have a pop-up. So when you click on the marker, you will see this text as a pop-up. Okay, our find button and marker is finished. Now let's go to the map component and add it at the bottom of the tile layer. Here we go. Now, if we go to the browser, we'll see nothing. But if we refresh the page multiple times, we will see our button here. And if we click on the map and drag the marker, we'll see it change. For fixing this find my location problem, we need some CSS. Let's go to the code and jump into the map.module.css. Let's add a bigger style for the find location button. We set its position to absolute, margin to auto, width of 12 rem, min height of 2.5 rem, font size of 1 rem, top, left, right, 0. So it will be shown on the top of the map, on the middle. This is the most important one. We need to increase the Z index of it to show it on top of the map. We set its background color to white, cursor of pointer, border radius. We're just rounding the bottom side of the button with setting its default border to none and giving it a 1 pixel border from the top. And now the last thing that we need is a hover effect. On its hover effect, we set its background to white smoke, a little bit grayer than the white. Now let's go to the browser. As you can see, we have this find my location. And when I click on it, it says geolocation error, user denied geolocation. It means I disabled location on my computer. I need to enable it and test it again. Okay, now I enabled the location. Now, when I click on the find my location, it will find the current location on the map. And I also could be able to change the location to the place that I want. I can zoom out, select another place as I like. So it works. Now the only thing that I want to verify is to make sure that it gets the lat.lng from the map inside the checkout page when we change the location. So let's go to the checkout page JS file. Here on the map on change, let's press enter and write console.log lat.lng. Jump back to the browser, press F12 on your keyboard, clear everything, change the location, and we'll see no effect from the map. So it means we did something wrong inside the map component. Okay, we forgot to use the unchanged event. For using it, we need to add a use effect here, and whenever the position changes, it should call the unchanged with the current position. We also need to handle the read-only mode. Let's do it. Here we go. Inside this use effect, we only listen to the changes of the position. And at its first line, we verify if it's the read-only mode. Then we just set the view of the map to 13, so it's very zoomed to the selected location of the position, and we return. Otherwise, if the position is not null or undefined, we call the unchanged, and that's exactly what we needed to do. So let's get back to the browser, press F12, clear everything, click on find my location. Okay. Let's change it. As you can see, we have the lat.lng inside our checkout page. So our map is completely ready. We created our map component. Now is the time for fixing the header problem with the map. If we go to the browser, as you can see, when we hover over the menu, it goes behind the map. For fixing this issue, we need to go to the header module CSS file. So from the components, go to the header module CSS, and here set this Z index more than the Z index of the map. That is 1000. So let's set it to 1001 or 10,000. But don't play with Z index too much because it could make a lot of problems for your CSS. Now save it and go to the browser. And as you can see, when we hover over the menu, it is on top of the map. So we fixed the header menu problem too. Now is the time for going to the backend. Here, first of all, we want to start from creating the order router. So let's jump into the code. Here, let's close all the front-end tabs. So right click on one of the tabs and click on close all. Then open the Explorer, go to the backend, src, then right click on the routers, create a new router with the name of order.router.js. Here, first of all, we want to start by importing the router from Express. Then we want to import handler from Express async handler, just like the other routers for handling the async functions inside the Express routers. Now we can create the router by writing const router equal to router from the Express router. Now I want to make this router to use a middleware with the name of Auth middleware. We didn't create it yet. We need this middleware to limit access to this router, that is the order router, only for authenticated users. It's very simple. It's just a function that will be called before calling your API. Here, first of all, let's open the Explorer, right click on the src and create a new folder with the name of middleware. Then right click on it and create a new file with the name of auth.mid.js or authentication middleware.javascript. On this middleware, we want to verify and decode the token coming from the user. And if the token is not valid, we need to send an unauthorized status to the user. For verifying the token, we need the verify function from the JSON web token. And we need to add an unauthorized status to the HTTP status. Let's go to the Explorer, constants, and HTTP status. Here, duplicate the bad request and change its name to unauthorized. The status number of unauthorized is 401. Here we go. The unauthorized is ready. Let's add it to the auth middleware. Okay. Now we need to export the default function that gets 3 inputs. Okay. Request, response, and next. This request and response is obvious. Just like our API, it has a request and response. But this next function, as its name says, will call the next item in the pipeline. So if the next item is our API, it will be called. But remember, after finishing your middleware, you always need to call the next function, so it knows that it could go to the next item on the pipeline. At the first line, I want to get the token. I'm going to get it from the request.headers.accessToken. AccessToken is a name that I chose. You can select any other names, but remember, you need to send this header from the front-end side to the backend. Here, after getting the token, first of all, we verify if it's not null or undefined, because if it's null or undefined, it means the user is not logged in, so it's unauthorized to see this page. So we need to check if the token is null or undefined, then send the status of unauthorized, that is 401, and send it to the user. But otherwise, here we're just checking if the token has value or not. But here I want to verify if the token is valid inside our system or not. As you can see, we are using the verify function from JSON Web Token. And for the JWT secret, we are using the value from .env file with the value of JWT secret. And this verify function, if the token is not valid, throws an exception. So we need to put it inside the try block. But if the token was valid, it will return the decoded object of the token. So we can set it for the request user and have the current user inside our APIs. But if the verification wasn't right, we are going to have an error. So we need to catch it and send the status of unauthorized to the user. Then at the end, we need to return next. As I told you, because this is a function inside the pipeline, so you always need to call next at the end. Now that our authentication middleware is ready, let's come back to the order router and import it here. Now we need to use this authentication middleware for the router. Okay, router.use this auth, coming from authentication middleware. Now, after this router use, we need to create our API. Here, as you can see, we created an API with the method of post, with the path of /create. So it will be /orders, /create. And we use this handler from Express, async handler, an async function inside it that gets the request and response. At its first line, we set the order equal to request.body, because request.body has the order that we want to save coming from the client side. After it, we need to verify if the order item's length is smaller than or equal to 0, we need to return a bad request, and we shouldn't save the order, because if an order doesn't have any items, that doesn't make sense, because nothing is selected to be purchased. So we write if order item's length is smaller than or equal to 0, we return a response that is status of bad request with the text of cart is empty. So this one will be shown as the error inside the toast. But if the items were more than 0, here we need to delete the previous order of the current user with the status of new. Then we need to create a new order for the current user. But for doing this, we need an order model. So we need to create it on the Mongoose models folder. So right click on it and create a new file with the name of order.model.js. For creating the order model, I need Mongoose and schema coming from the Mongoose package. Then I need order status, because our order should have a status. Is it new, paid, shipped, or anything else? So now we need to create it. Here from the Explorer, go to the constants, right click on it and create a new file with the name of order status.js and create a constant like this. Here we go. We have order status constant with 5 states. When we create the order, we give it the status of new. So save the order status and close it, and let's import it here. Okay. We also need to import the food model because we need its schema, since we want to save the foods of the order inside the order model. But we need a couple of other schemas too. For example, latitude, longitude schema that has only 2 items, lat and lng. Let's create it. Okay, pretty simple. Export const lat lng schema. It is a new schema that has this structure, lat lng with the type of string for both, and both of them are required. And we remove its ID because it is part of the order and we don't need a separate ID for the lat lng. The next thing that we need is order item schema. for storing the items of an order inside the database. Let's create it. Okay. Order item schema that has the food as its first item, and this is interesting. The type of the food is the food model dot schema. So we are getting the schema of our food inside the order from another model, and it is required. We also have a price and quantity with the type of number, and both of them are required. In fact, all three of them are required. And just like the lat.lng, we don't need the ID for this schema too, because it will be part of the order. Now here for the order item schema, we need to add a pre-validate hook. We are going to create a pre-validate hook, and inside it, we want to calculate the price of the order item based on the food price and the quantity. Let's create it. Here we go. We just write order item schema dot pre string of validate, and we give it a function that gets the next item on its pipeline. Then we set this dot price, that is this price, to this dot food dot price, the price of the food and the quantity. So the price will be set on the server side before validating the schema. Okay, now we need to write the main schema, that is order schema itself. Here let's write order schema is equal to new schema. Let's define its structure. It has a string name, address lat.lng with the type of lat.lng schema, the schema that we created at the top, payment ID with the type of string, total price with the type of number. It has an item with the type of order item schema array, the order item schema that we created here, a status with the type of string, that its default value is new. This is the order status that we created minutes ago, and the user with the type of schema.types.object ID, and the object ID is the ID type inside the MongoDB. So in fact, we want the user to have the ID of the current user inside the database, and it is required too. This was the structure. Let's give it the options. Timestamps are true, 2 JSON virtuals true, and 2 objects virtuals true. I talked about it, so I'm not going to waste the time on this. Finally, we need to create the model at the bottom. So let's write export const order model equal to model with the name of order inside the database and with the schema of this order schema. Okay, our order model is ready. Let's close it and come back to the order router. Oh, here we didn't import this bad request. Let's import it. Then we need to import the order model that we just created and the order status, because we want to remove the order status of new for the current user. So we need it. Now here after this if, we need to delete the new order of the user like this. We write order model delete one, user ID coming from request.user.id, this request.user coming from our authentication middleware. And since we set the ID when we were creating the order inside the user router, as you can see, when we are signing our token, we set the ID of the user here. So when it will be decoded, it has the ID so we can have access to it. So this delete one function on the order model will find the order for the current user and the status of new, and it will delete it. Then on the next line, we need to create a new order with the order coming from the user and with the user ID coming from the authentication middleware. Then we need to save the new order. And at the end, we need to send the new order to the client side. Okay, our order router is ready. Now we need to add this order router to the server.js. So first of all, let's import it here and use it here after the user router with the address of /API/orders, just like the other models APIs. And we pass the order router here. Oh, here I think inside the router I forgot to export this. So let's write export default router. So we are going to export this router that we created at the top. Now let's go to the browser. Press F12 for opening the inspect. Click here for clearing everything. Select your location on the map and click on go to payment. As you can see from the server, we got an error with the status of 401. The reason is we are using the Auth middleware, and since we didn't send any access token to the server, it returns an unauthorized, that is 401. For fixing this issue, we need to send the token with every request that comes to the server. But before that, let's see where we are. We just created the order router. We added the Auth middleware, the status. We added the Auth middleware to the order router, order model, order status, and we just add it to the server. Now is the time for connecting frontend to the backend. That's what we are talking about. We already created the order service. We added the create function. Now we just need to do this part. That is adding an auth interceptor or adding an interceptor on Axios and sending the token with every request to the server. Let's do it. Go back to the code and close the backend stuff. Open the Explorer, go to the front end. Let's find the interceptors folder. Right click on it and create a new file with the name of authinterceptor.js. Here, first of all, we need to import the Axios, and just like the interceptor of loading, we need to call axios.interceptors.request.use, and inside here, when we are sending the request to the server, we need to write this. First of all, we need to get the user from the local storage as a JSON string. Then if the user is available, we parse it into a JavaScript object. Then we get the token, that token string, and we put it inside this constant. If the token is not null or undefined, we set the access token. As you can see, this is exactly the name that we have inside our auth middleware. Here, see, this is access underline token. And we are setting the header of access token equal to this token that we got from the server. Then we return the request. And for the error situation, we just need to give it a handler that gets the error and returns the promise that rejects of that error. Okay, our interceptor is ready. Now we just need to add it to the index.js file. So open the index.js file, then add the auth interceptor. Here we go. You don't need to import it with any name. Just adding it here will run this script, and Axios use this as an interceptor. Now if you go to the browser, then clear everything here and come back, select the location on the map and click on go to payment. If you go to the network, you'll see that the create API inside /API/orders got a status of 200 instead of 401. For verifying that our order is really created, you can go to the compass. Here, as you can see, we have a new collection with the name of orders. If we click on it, we'll see our order here. And if you open the items, you will see the same items with the same price and quantity. Okay, the checkout page is ready. On the next lesson, we are going to implement the payment page. So after clicking on the go to payment, you'll see everything in the read-only mode here inside the payment page with the PayPal button for doing the payment. You've been watching Code with Nasir, and I hope to see you next time.